in a way, I feel like I wish the system would come alongside people more and just understand that a lot of people, especially coming from broken homes, you don't have somebody who's sitting with you all the time and teaching you and telling you and spending that time to get you to the aptitude that a lot of people who are in good homes have. I have a purpose in my life today, and I know that my life like this, my life outside of abusing, is better than my life there. Like, I don't need that anymore because I have enough support and enough like stable ground, and I know that I have a future in front of me. Whereas before, I kind of just went wherever the wind blew. I grew up in a lot of foster homes, but I also, like, my most solid point was with my grandparents on a farm. And then just, I didn't know if it was like just unusual for being moved around so much that I didn't really mix in well with others and kind of felt different. So I kind of grew up on a farm somewhat. When I'm in my stable moments, I was on a farm. Like, I like to remember those memories, you know what I mean? And I have 5 children. They are with my sister in placement, and I signed over a permanent guardianship to her. I still have contact with them today, but yeah, I've kind of gotten to the point where, like, when I first did it, I was really fighting to just get them back, and I really, I spent about 4 years spending on that, and I just lost the mental capacity, I guess, to keep going with it, I guess. This time, though, I can accept it, like, right where I'm at now. I look at it as they've been with her for so long. Like, she's like, I don't want you to just up them because you're doing well now. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that, because now they're in an environment where all 5 of them have been together in a 2-parent home, and they're doing way better than I could have done as a single parent who, like, barely balancing myself. Like, I think for me, like, a belief system that I used to have was that, like, everyone else had to be responsible for me and I didn't have to be responsible for myself. So, like, when you get into that and you think of having kids, like, I realized that there was a lot of winging it going on, and, like, I didn't have any structure to give them because I didn't have any structure myself. You know what I mean? Not really. So, like, it's hard to parent. So I'm hoping, like, I'm really hoping on my best wishes that, like, I'm in prayers that, like, I tell my sister I'm grateful for her every day, but, like, that came from, like, a place where, like, I didn't used to feel that way. I used to, like, look at her as the enemy, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, my mindset's changed in that way, but, like, I don't know. Now I'm just super grateful for her, and I tell her, like, she did a great job. My kids are amazing. Like, I can't even believe some of the stuff that they have done. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like they would have gotten that same posture from me with the way that things were, because I was still trying to figure out who I was and how to adapt and deal with that. I'm kind of an emotional person, but there's a lot of, like, I don't know. I remember, like, when they did a trial for my kids or whatever, and I remember getting on that stand and they were talking about how kids are resilient and da da da. And I was just so upset about it, because I was like, you know what though? I'm like a 28-year-old, 30-year-old woman, and, like, I'm not resilient. Like, I'm still feeling these effects from childhood, and from not having that. So, like, I don't want you to sit here and tell me that, like, the kids are resilient, because, like, I'm living proof that, like, they're not, and it can affect everything else. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm really happy that I have that connection with my kids. I get to talk to them now on a daily basis. And my sister's, she wanted to see she said, I want to see at least more than 1 year of sobriety, and, before I can give you more visitation. And for once, I wasn't angry with her. I understood, like, and it took me a long time to get to the point where, like, looking at my back of my addiction and being like, dude, okay, so, like, because she might have not known if they were going to be safe. Am I going to show up again? Am I going to, you know what I mean? And, like, not even realizing that, like, it was like, I did exactly to my kids what my mom did to me. You know what I mean? Not even realizing that was there. But, like, I'm hoping that, like, keeping them where they're at and just doing my best to stay in their lives from where I'm at, like, and staying in a healthy place, that they won't end up like I did, the same way, doing the same things, because they have a healthier home life. So I kind of feel like it's somewhere between my environment and just, like, yeah.
Your environment affects where you were and where you're going, and it takes a lot of strength to move on from that. So you were chosen to be in Leaders of Tomorrow, and you kind of told me about where you were before. So what kind of an impact do you think, and how did it give you hope for your future? What does it mean to you?
I feel like, okay, so I had a lot of time, like a really hard time, I think, believing in myself and having any kind of focus and follow through on anything. Like, I've been to a treatment center, got my stuff together, you know what I mean? And then, like, been out for like 6 or 7 months, doing good. And then all of a sudden, like, I kind of just dropped the ball, fall back into old habits, get around the wrong people. And, like, and it's just been kind of a spinning wheel for quite a few years now. And, like, this is the first time that I have, like, almost 2 full years in a row of sobriety. And I want to say a lot of it probably has to do with, I did take a longer time in treatment this time, and I did take MRT. I totally push MRT on anyone, because I didn't even know, you know what I mean, about setting goals. And then taking LOT on top of that gave me the belief in myself and, like, how to break those goals down into smaller pieces and, like, see them and then, like, appreciate them. Like, to actually be like, okay, like you did what you said you were going to do, like go get yourself a coffee. Like I never ever thought about, like actually like giving myself props for it. And like I never have had, like I had one slip and there was never a time where I was able to come back up. Like usually it's like if I go out and I'm gone and I can't come back. But I feel like having the program that they have here implementing, like I have a purpose in my life today, and I know that my life like this, my life outside of abusing is better than my life there. Like I don't need that anymore because I have enough support and enough like stable ground, and I know that I have a future in front of me. Whereas before I kind of just went wherever the wind blew, and it kept blowing me back into circles of people that were doing the same things. I mean, even when they put you in like a halfway house after a treatment center, like what they're doing is they're putting you around more people doing the same things that are going to get out. And no offense, but it's been a rotating door because there's nothing different happening, I mean, they're trying, but you really have to want to have a program and like stick to it to, to stay on the right path, because you're around so many people who aren't doing that. They're just, this is where I had to go, so I'm here. And like some people like me, I fought for my bed. Like I called and called and called, and they ended up putting me in there in an emergency hold, like emergency admin, because I just kept calling them. And like for me, that bed, I wanted that bed this time. Like I wanted it for me. And I think that taking this program is the same thing. Is like I want better for myself for once. It's not getting sober for my kids. It's not getting sober for this, but it's like I know that me being a better person is going to help the people around me. And like I've seen that. You know what I mean?
Did you feel like the system failed you in the past as not having the right supports when you needed them, when you were, like you said, you were reaching out on your own, please help me, give me a bed. So do you feel like they failed you?
Okay, so what was weird around this last time, I couldn't get in any of the treatment centers. Because I had been to treatment, like Keystone, I've been to Keystone 4 times. And then the Glory House I went to once, but they wouldn't let me in because I don't know if it was because of how I treated it. But like I went back on my amends, and I sent letters out to those treatment centers, like saying that I appreciated that they were there for me on my walk, and that, that I'm sorry that they felt that I misused it, and that's why they wouldn't let me back in. But there's plenty of people where I've seen 17, 18 times they get in. So I was a little upset that but I don't know, sometimes I guess people get sick of giving you chances. But as for the system failing me all the way up, you know what? Okay, so my kids didn't go to school 3 days in a row one time, because they were sick. And I remember DSS coming to the house, but my mom, when I was little and I was at home, she would leave me home alone with no electricity for days. You know what I mean? And no one came. You know what I mean? And there was even a point where she wouldn't make me go to school, so I stopped going to school, and I'd eat lunch with DSS workers every week, and yet no one ever came. You know what I mean? No one ever came. So I guess I can appreciate the system where it's at now, where you miss school and they come and they check things out. But because where in my day, where no one really, they didn't, and then I can kind of understand looking back why my family came and took me from her so many times, and yeah. But I don't think she knew how to really be a mom. And that's why I think I get a lot of insecurities when I became a mom, is because I remember where my roots were, and it's hard to do things when you're not taught how to do them. And there's basic life skills that I feel like I still don't know today. I spent a couple of years at the St. Francis house, and one of the case managers there was really nice to me. And she used to teach me how to fold clothes and stuff like that. And she took some time with me because she's like, Kim, I know that you don't do this messy thing. I know that this isn't on purpose. I get that you just don't know what it looks like to just be, organized. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, no, you're not wrong. So I don't know, in a way, I feel like I wish the system would come alongside people more and just understand that a lot of people, especially coming from broken homes, you don't have somebody who's sitting with you all the time and teaching you and telling you and spending that time to get you to the aptitude that a lot of people who are in good homes have. You know what I mean? So those kids are lacking in that area, and then you grow up still lacking from that. And then you don't want to admit that you're lacking from that. You know what I mean? You're just I got hard-headed. No, I know how to do it. And kind of became willful. I had to open myself back up to being teachable again, even because once you do it on your own, I felt I basically raised myself by the end of it. I moved out when I was 14 then, and I went with one of my little 18-year-old friends, and I moved in, and I started drinking early. You know what I mean? I think I had 5 or 6 underages before I was 18. But when you feel then you've raised yourself, by the time it comes around for people, where you should be taking some direction because you're messing your whole life up, you don't want to listen because you've been on your own so long. So it takes a lot to, I think, get back down to that spot where you'll let somebody else speak into your life.
So you got started in LOT, and how did you, was it an easy entry for you? Were you excited to go? Did you feel this isn't something I need, because you've already said, I kind of knew what I was doing, but How did you feel about when you first came into Leaders of Tomorrow, when you were suggested to go to this program? And
I was actually excited about it because I had just finished MRT, and in that point of my pathway of sobriety, I wanted something that was going to challenge me to keep looking into myself and my growth and like monitoring how that was looking. And my PO was like, well, I think, it's not the same thing as like your MRT, but it's something that will keep you busy and it'll be like a replacement. And I feel really strongly now into the time that I've spent, how many times I've spent getting sober, and that walk is like, you really do need to have something that you're replacing with your old things. You need to have something there. So like for me, I really needed to put something there for those hours that I was spending there. So it was really cool, actually. So I was excited to do it. I felt like it was an opportunity. I was like in one of those spaces where I felt like opportunities were just kind of, coming in like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. I was in a yes moment.
That's good. We need to be in yes moments, don't we? Can you tell me about something that you've learned about yourself or improved and made a better version of you because of the work that you've had with Leaders of Tomorrow?
There was a lot. We did a lot on like self-awareness. Like they really key in on that. And I noticed like that I do have a lot of negative talk myself. So like I feel like talking to myself better, like doing them, like the affirmations and like all that stuff, like believing in myself and building my confidence and stuff, and becoming aware of like where I maybe need to do a little work, that becoming aware of that really helped me a lot. It's helped me more in my communication too. I have a problem with, like, I would just kind of fly off the handle, and I've gotten better at pausing, but I have still not better at the addressing in a way that doesn't seem
confrontational.
Yeah, to somebody else, because I'm kind of just like, a little bit. I kind of have just like this, and I'm not trying to, but I do have kind of like a push off of kind of thing. Like I just, whatever. So they're helping me with that a little bit, like I'm trying to figure out, and I never realized like the conflict resolution thing. We just learned something on that the other day, and I was kind of like, oh, like it was weird, but like there's a guy at work where I've just really, me and him are never hit it off, and I was kind of like, I've been like praying for him. I'm trying to like say things I'm grateful for him before work, and then I was like, this is something about preference versus preference, and like maybe like this is where conflict's at. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, maybe he just like doesn't like because of the way that I do things, and he does them differently. Like it was like this aha moment, but it worked out for me because then like now we're getting on the same page that like, yeah, he doesn't like the way that I do it, and like maybe I should do it this way. But it's really helped me like observe around me, like actively listening, being present. It's taught me a lot of really, really good skills, and there were so many that like came in that it, you know what I mean? Sometimes I have to like go back and be like, okay, what did it say about this? But I definitely took notes for sure, because a lot of it was cool.
So they also had you work on a belief statement. I believe it was a belief statement, and you had to develop it your own. Would you want to talk about that?
A belief statement. For me, I like right now I'm trying to work on my spiritual principles. I'm in a program and we're trying to do that. So I'm trying to go on like having integrity and stuff like that. But beforehand, like my belief system was kind of like, I don't know, I didn't trust in, like cops, stuff like that. Like those were kind of scary for me. It was kind of like an I do what I want thing and the rest doesn't matter. And I feel like I've kind of came back to see where my ways like didn't make sense, which is cool to finally be at that point where you can look and be like, okay, like none of that is okay. But yeah, just finding a way to like animate like a responsibility for myself again,
So they have you do something called soil, which is about soaking in, observing, and implementing from Leaders of Tomorrow. And I had heard that word soil when I was at one of the graduations, and I was like, what is soil? So what can you tell me a little bit about soil and what you learned from soil?
Let's see, soil. Yeah. So I think it's more like just observing and trying to I try to take what I learn and implement it in the environments that I'm in, like placing a seed, like they're placing a seed. Basically, it's a process of, being teachable and then like really listening and observing. And I try to bring that out to the people, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, they do have a lot of it. They ask you to go back and like, look, like there's a lot of review on like, okay, spend some time in what we've learned and see. And I do my best to actually push it into an action though. Like every time that we learn something, I go home and I use it. Like they talk about wins and I'll go to work, or like my kids and I'll like, I started doing that. So like we could start our focus being, and then like they ask you to be intentional. So I've tried more of like, okay, so I'm going to go to work and I'm not going to complain about the work that's not getting done. I'm going to do the work that needs to be done. And then, you know what I mean? Like instead of just expecting someone else to do it. So I think it's really helped me see the actions that can be taken, like not just observing and being aware, but seeing an action and taking that action.
So soil, if I think about soil and not having done a part of the program, I think about something growing. Can you talk about some of the growth you feel like you've had since being with Leaders of Tomorrow? Because there's got to be a tremendous amount of growth from where you were a few years ago.
Yeah, well, for sure from a few years ago, but even from like just lately, like my communication, my reaction time, I think. I think how I like come off to people. I find a way to be like a little bit lighter, I think. And I'm trying to do different things. Like, I came in with really low self-esteem, and I went out, like I chair an NA program now. I lead one of the groups at my church, and I'm just open to doing things where I can get in with people and get to know them. And like, that's really outside of what I used to be like, because I got to a point where I just didn't want any more loss. So I just locked people out, you know what I mean? So it's given me a lot better confidence and belief in myself, being able to be around people that are outside of what I'm used to, you know what I mean? Because you want to go somewhere different because you don't want to go back to how you were when you were out using, you know what I mean? You don't want that lifestyle, but like it's a whole nother place. Like it's actually like a whole process to get to where you're comfortable in another place, and then like what that looks like to be open to be out there and with people and trying to let people in that's not what you're used to, like that's
walking into a room full of strangers.
Yeah, like in real life though.
Yes,
Yeah,
in real
and
life, walking into a room full of strangers.
So it's that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like they help with that too, like having people that are doing well in their own lives and being able to be around that and being in that kind of environment, around people who are celebrating their wins and that are doing well and trying to grow, like, and being able to be around that and not,
So you talked about celebrating your wins. Tell me one thing that you're really proud, or just even proud of in your life that you have accomplished. It could be 20 years ago, but what's something that you're proud of? That's a hard question for me. So
lately, and I know this sounds really, really stupid, but I was actually talking to Audrey this morning about how, like, okay, so when I got into treatment, coming from being homeless and stuff, like my only goals coming into treatment were like, make sure I take my meds on time, show up for work, make sure that I'm going to counseling. Like, and they seemed, looking back now, they seemed just really, really small, but then, it went to like get a place to live, pay on like debts. I have like an SR-22 I have to pay, catch up on my child support because I pay child support, and like just things like that. And then just making sure that I'm consistently paying child support and, helping my kids out and getting more time. And like, I guess my wins is like looking back now after, just even this year, like this year's been really great for me. Like I'm actually gonna I have a valid driver's license that I'm getting in the mail on Friday, which for me is a big deal because I've been paying for 11 years on this thing and I keep like going back out and not paying on it. And like I've taken care of it, and I'm finally like, like I'm making amends where I need to make amends, and I'm serving and getting out in the world and like doing something to put back into the community, and like that feels good. And it's a really different mindset, and I feel like it's just really good to have the confidence and to feel like that's okay.
Being somebody who came from formerly incarcerated, I think I can say that. What types of things would you like society to know or other people to know about the stigma that's around that, and that, you're an ordinary person trying to start over?
I don't know, just that they're humans too. We're humans too. And I think everybody should have opportunities and the availability to not have to always be running into roadblocks, I don't know. It'd be so much easier if it was out there to have all the funding that you could for, programs that would help people to actually, have people come alongside them and have the opportunity to get life skills and skills like this. Like, honestly, like I know this sounds really weird, but for me at 34 years old, having somebody say, set down your goals and break them down, like that for me was a mind blow. Like I've never actually even thought to do that. But that, like I said, I was, and when you're swaying everywhere, you don't have any direction. So like, I don't know, it'd be nice just to see more of that, I guess.
So why do you feel like LOT is so important for others, and why it should be made available for people, and how it could impact their lives?
Because I feel like it really, really does help your confidence and your belief in yourself. And I feel like like having hope, especially in yourself after, it's super important to have something like that and to have the support of people who genuinely are going to come alongside you and help you. And like, you have somewhere to turn other than this other way. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of places that give you this way and that will come alongside you. Like there's a lot of that way out there. And like, I really feel like they need a lot more of having, the opportunity for people to give you that hope and belief in yourself and the direction and the focus, you know what I mean? To go the right way and having like, it's a really good thing. It really is. Like I've taken a lot from it this year.
So everybody has dreams, and your dreams have probably changed over the last 34 years. So what does the Kim of today dream for in the next 5-10 years?
5-10 years.
What are you hoping for? What has this opened up for you?
So like my intentional goal, and like sometimes I've switched it up from what I originally, but like I originally wanted to get through these classes and then go do my GED and start looking into being an addictions counselor or something like that. And the Arch had offered me to come as like a tech there, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing to where I'd started up. But like then as a job opened up, I realized that like with the work that I'd been doing in here and like learning how to conversate and like communicate with my boss and with the people around me and like helping the environment that I'm in, honestly, it's gotten a lot better. And it's made me think like where I'm at, like I do make a decent amount of money and I have a 401k and like there's all these things where I'm kind of want to stay where I'm at and just see what can come from that. But like I still want to go get my GED, but like I think I'm teeter-tottering, but like there was a point where like I wasn't even working, you know what I mean? And like it wasn't. So it's like it's good to see that like there's, to me, I like see all these different things and I actually have choices and paths to pick. So
and you do have dreams that have changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
So we've spent just a few minutes together, and I see a vibrant young woman ahead in front of me, somebody that, if I met you at work or wherever, I wouldn't think twice about that you've had struggles in your past because you seem like you have it together. So are your inner circle of your family, are they seeing changes? And how about your kids? How do your kids fit into that whole picture of, you're remaking those relationships with your family now, and so what does that look like?
Well, with my sister, it looks a lot different. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time communicating with her, just how grateful I am and just kind of changing the mindset up of it. But I really feel that way now is the difference, I think. And I think she sees that too, is like that I'm really doing something different this time, and I know that, so for me and her, because I'm still taking shots and being okay with them because like I've put her in a place where I deserve to hear things like that. For the most part, you know what I mean? I do have my boundaries, but she doesn't say too much to where it's like, but she said that if I'm still, doing as good as I am, that we'll go to a trip to Disney World at Christmas for the kids and like me, her, and the kids. And I feel like, I know that sounds weird, but like for her to say that, it's actually like that's her saying, like, I know you're doing good and like here's, this can be something. And she's allowed me to see the kids a lot more often. Like I've gotten to the point where I can go every week if I want. And me and her are actually getting along on such a good level. Like, I can actually talk to her like I'm talking in a co-parenting way and not in a way of like, I'm still her little sister and she's having to like tell me how to live my life, and it's really cool because my siblings have always, like, I'm the youngest. So I've always been treated a certain type of way, by them. And then to like really actually make a mess of things, it's easier to then talk down to someone, I think. But and my children, I really feel like they've noticed it. Like I've showed up for them in a way, and I've opened up the communications. I've really been present. I really sit there and I listen to them and what they want, and I've taken the time to really be present with them. And I think LOT's given me a lot of that too, of just making sure that you're, like the active listening that I do now with my kids, like I can tell you what their favorite colors are, and I make it intentional to call them every night, and we have a lot of good conversations. Like I actually had a conversation with my son. He's only 12, and he was telling me like what scholarships he was going to need to go to college, and like how he was going to be, what kind of car he was going to drive. And I was like, wow, you directly like what you want. And like for me, it was crazy to hear it from my 12-year-old because I was like, I'm just figuring this out this year through like this program I'm taking, and like you're already just ready for life. So like I don't know. I was excited for him though for that. And yeah, things have been going a lot better. So most of my wins that I celebrate are usually like about my kids. So
those are big wins.
Because it's getting, it's getting closer, and it's getting that we're like, for a long time, it was really hard for me. They tell you at the program that I work, like, to make amends with people, and just like accepting when the apology has to be like a living in amends, and being able to word that. Like, it's hard to communicate things when you're coming from a place of like a lot of shame and a lot of hurt and a lot of where you know you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I know that they're casualties of my addiction, and so I don't have that right to expect something. But I feel like the more that I learn about like the conflict resolution and the communication, and just kind of, it helps me to kind of figure out my words in a way that makes sense. You know, like they teach us time, tact, and delivery, and I feel like I really think of that a lot when I'm thinking of like how to speak with my children and the people around me, because I feel like there are so many wounds there that I don't want to like throw salt on something that's not ready to be touched yet. You know what I mean? And so like, I think I'm really listening in on that stuff, because I want to make sure that I'm not taking something at the wrong time. Like, you know, I have younger children. Like, at what age is it okay to be like, you know, hey, my addiction, you know, have that talk with them and let them know, like, hey, it wasn't you, it was mom. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's kind of like just, it's helping me navigate through those waves a little bit.
What kind of message do you have for the family that's dealing with somebody who's in addiction, that they're pretty much just tired of this, where I think your family probably was, and how do you give them hope, or how would you give them direction as to, I mean, LOT was like the next step of saving your life. You did drug court, and you did your time, and you've now been sober, and it's all because of things that you've done. But what words of hope do you have for families that are struggling with the same issues that your family struggled with?
You don't want to enable somebody, but like, you really want to love them, come alongside them, and just, you know what I mean, when they ask for help, take that opportunity to give them help, I guess. And just, there is hope. It's just sometimes people have to be ready, and you know, it helps a lot to just keep giving that love, but not, you know, like, there's boundaries there. We learned a lot about that in class too, but like, for real, my family, I'm honestly, it took me to the point of where there just was nothing, and I had to figure it out on my own before I was like, I can't do this. You know, like, you kind of have to let all hands go so that you can pick a different one and let it, you know? So I don't want to like make it sound hopeless, but sometimes it's, you know, it comes to where you just got to give them the space to make their own mistakes and come to the realization that the life they're living isn't worth the life that they're losing by living that way.
You know, Kim, we've only known each other for about 45 minutes, and to me this has been incredibly enjoyable. I have met a young, vibrant woman, and who I think has made amazing choices and hard choices. Everybody's got hard choices. You had some incredibly hard choices, and you're making positive choices moving forward, and I'm thankful for the programs that there are out there, and there are some out there for help. And I wish you all the best in the future, and keep that smile. Yeah. You have an amazing personality. You just keep right on talking. Yeah. So, you know, we all have our inner insecurities, and people can get you down fast. And I think it's great. I think you're doing wonderful stuff.
Thank you.